Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Maseches Bava Kamma DAF Ayin. We're holding right on top of the Amud Amri Nahardoi. So in Nahardoa they said as follows: Loi kasvinon, we never write urchasa. Rashi says urchasa is harsha, a power of attorney, authorizing you to represent me in this litigation, in this collection. Right? So we don't do that amatatali when it comes to items like money, etc. Why? Why can't we do that? Why can't I allow you to go collect my money on my behalf? Amar Rav Ashi la Meimar. So Rav Ashi asked this question. He asks, Meimar, my timer, what's wrong with writing an urchasa to collect metatali? Normally he says, oh, remember, that's Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda, who taught us the other day. Dam Rabbi Yehuda, Gazal v'lo nisyashu abalim. Shimon steals an item from Reuven, and Reuven, the owner, had not yet given up hope of retrieving that item. Shneim einon yechoilin lahagdisha. We're meant to know that both these individuals, Shimon the Ganav and Reuven the owner, they cannot assign this item to Hegdish. They can't be Magdish it for different reasons. Shimon the Ganav can't, simply because it's not his. And Reuven the owner cannot, because he's no longer in possession of the item. And when you don't have control, you can't affect any change or transactions regarding that item, including making it Hegdish. And likewise, you don't have enough control over the item. You're lacking in your ownership, so to speak, to enable you to authorize somebody, to grant the power of authority to somebody else to collect that item on your behalf. You're not enough of an owner, you're not really in control to do these things. That's one version. So no adrachta on metaltalim. Ika de Amri is another version. Amri Nahardoi, the Nahardoa, they said like this: Like asfin urchasa metatli de kafrei. When do we refrain from writing this urchasa? That's only if the metatlin had already been denied, meaning, where's my money? Doesn't exist. Oh, then you cannot go ahead and authorize somebody to try to retrieve the money on your behalf. Time of the kafre. It's only because there was denial pertaining to that claim. The mechsik is shikr. In which case, if we go ahead and we allow you to draft this document, it looks like it's untrue. It looks like something false, because you don't really have it. It's not tangible, because you can't really collect it. The person's denying its existence, so it doesn't look real. It doesn't look legitimate, and therefore we don't want to cooperate in putting together this document where you're granting permission, you're granting authority on that item to this person. It doesn't appear like you have control, like you have it. Time but the kafrei de mechsek shikra. Avaloi kafrei, but let's say the other fellow never denied that he has that item for you, kasfinon, then we can write the urchasa. There's no issue of sheker. So despite the fact that it's not in your hands, you don't have control, that's okay, because ultimately it's yours and this fellow is holding it for you. So I can write a shtar urchasa and ask you to go collect it on my behalf. Here is another halacha from Nahardo regarding urchasa. Urchasa like sive, any shtar harsha, this sort of power authority, which doesn't contain within it the following phrase: Zil, go ahead, dain, go litigate this case with my opponent, v'zachi, and hopefully you'll win, you'll be victorious. Va'apik nafshach, and then you can keep the money for yourself. If you don't write that, which would basically grant him ownership over that potential claim, les be'meshasha, it's worthless. So basically your friend can't go do anything on your behalf unless he becomes the owner of that item. Why? My timer. Why is that? Because the other fellow can turn to him when confronted by your representative, Mishum Da'amalei Hayach, the other fellow responds to him, what are you doing here? You're not my Baal Davar, I don't know you. I have nothing to do with you. You're not my opponent. Lav Baal Dvarim Didiyat. So the only way you can compel the other opponent to deal with your representative is by giving him ownership. Here, it's yours, take it, now go deal with it. Go deal with the other person regarding this claim. Omar Abaye, v'yiksiv be'le mechza, l'shlish v'leravia, do you have to completely donate it to your representative? No. Even if you gave him sort of a cut, a commission, take half, a third, a quarter, that's enough to allow his involvement. Migu de mishtoi dina apalga, since your litigant is now compelled to deal with your representative regarding that 50%, which is his. Mishtoi dina kulo, he can drag him along and compel him to deal regarding the whole thing, because it's all really one claim. Since he has personal stake, he has a right to get involved. Amar Ameimar, let's say you asked a representative to go, collect something for you. Itafas, and that fellow goes and is successful in collecting, and he grabs it, he says, it's mine, you gave it to me. You can't take it away from him. Although, in his document, in his power of attorney, it doesn't clearly stipulate that he gets it. But he can claim, well, this is what we had in mind, it's mine. Ravashi Amar, well, unless he writes as follows. If he clearly stipulated otherwise, he wrote like this. Kivon de kasvile. Once he writes him like this. Called him is animindina. This is the actual owner of the item, of the money. Let's say Reuben, who asked Shimon to collect on his behalf. So Reuben writes the following words in the shtar, in this shtar harsha. Called him is animindina. Any consequence of this litigation that you will have between yourself and my good friend out there, kabilas alai am, accepting upon myself, meaning I'm taking responsibility for anything that happens, then he's clearly just making him a shliach. I'm not granting you ownership, I'm still responsible. Shliach shavi. Vigada Amar, shut v'shavi. Some learn that even when he writes it this way, he's making him a partner in this collection. The manafkine, what's the difference? Limitvas palga, to grab half. So if the fellow wants to hold back half, he can say, yeah, I'm a shutav. If in fact we treat it as such. But the halacha is, no, vilchasa shliach shavi, unless he explains clearly that he's giving it over, he's just making him a shliach to go collect it on his behalf. Says the Mishnah, Gonav al pishnai, a fellow steals an animal and is incriminated by two Eidim who come and testify that he stole the animal. V'tavachu machar al piyam. And he went a step further. He proceeded to phase 2 of this gazela. He did the shchita or the mechira on the same animal. And again, he incriminated by these two Eidim. Or even if phase 2 is being presented by another pair of Eidim. In both cases, he's fully liable, meshalem, tashlumi Bava Kamma, he pays the full payment 4 or 5 times. Even though the Geneva is being presented by one pair of Eidim, and the Tvicha and Mechira by the other pair. You can combine their testimonies and get them to pay the full amount. Continues the Mishnah with several cases where a person pays Bava Kamma, even though they're unusual cases. Ganav machar b'Shabbos. He stole an animal and sold it on Shabbos. So he hasn't really committed a malacha d'oraisa, and therefore he doesn't get misa, and he's fully liable to payments. Or Ganav machar avodah zarah. He stole the animal and sold it off to the avodah zarah. Or Ganav v'tavach b'Yom Kippur. He stole and did the shchita on the animal on Yom Kippur, which is a tremendous isur, it's a malacha, but as Rashi points out, the consequence is kares, death, from heaven. So it's not through the bezdin, in which case we don't exempt him from payments. When a person is chayiv misa and bezdin, that preempts any payments, but not kares. Another example of liability is Ganav Mishalav. He stole his father's animal. And then he did the Tvicha or Mechira. And then his father passed away and he became the heir. He became the Yerush. Too late. Everything took place before the Yerusha took effect. He's fully liable. Or he did the Gneva and the Tvicha and then decided to take the animal and make it Hegdish, which would typically preempt Dalad V'Hei. But the Hegdish in this case happened post Shchita, too late. Mishalim Tashluma Bava Kamma. Urgana v'tavach l'rafo. He stole the animal and did the Shchita not for personal, pleasure, for consumption, to use it for medicine. Or the club, or feed it to his dogs. Again, not personal consumption. Or Hashecha v'nimsis treifa. He did the Shchita on the animal. Turns out that it's not kosher. It has some sort of, it's been discovered that it had some sort of internal deficiency, internal critical wound, which makes it asr ba'achila. Or Hashecha d'chulun ba'azara. Takes an animal, stolen animal, does a shchita in the Beis HaMikdash, which again makes it asr. In all these, we say mishalim tashluma Bava Kamma. He's fully liable, full payment. Rabbi Shimon poite b'shnei elu. Rabbi Shimon takes issue with these last two examples. Treifa, which is inedible, chulun ba'azara, which is inedible, because according to Rabbi Shimon, only a shchita ru'uya, a shchita which can trigger permissibility, edibility, that's called a proper shchita. After all, that's the purpose of shchita, to make it mutar ba'achila. But in these cases, since the shchita is not accomplishing heter achila, it's not a proper shchita, and there's no dalet v'hei payments. Okay, let's go back to the first case in the Mishnah. Two Eidim are testifying that he stole. That's it, phase one. Another two Eidim are testifying that he did the shchita or the mechira. Mishnah says you pay dalet v'hei, even though we're sort of combining testimony from two different witnesses to get you to the grand total. Lema mas nisan, perhaps our halacha and our Mishnah, the loik Rabbi Kiva is not following Rabbi Kiva. The Rabbi Kiva, because according to Rabbi Kiva, he tells us the entire episode from A to Z has to be presented by one pair of Eidim, because the pasuk says al pi shnayim Eidim yokum davar. The entire episode davar v'lo chatzi davar. You can't split half episode presented by them and half by them. The Sanyas, we have a price. Rabbi Yisi's father's name was Chalafta. Rabbi Yisi ben Chalafta. So Rabbi Yisi tells us, Abu Chalafta, when my father Chalafta once went, Eitzel Rabbi Yechamanuri to Rabbi Yechamanuri Lumay Torah to learn. But some say it was the other way, that Abu Chalafta was the Rebbe. Rabbi Yechamanuri went Eitzel Abu Chalafta to learn. Amar Loi. So the Talmud asked the Rebbe, we all know that if a person occupies, let's say, a property, a field, for 3 years running, and he has Eidim to prove it, once the 3 years are up without any, issues, no protesting on behalf of the former owner, so this new fellow can say, look, it's mine. Where's my document? I lost it. I misplaced it. I had no reason to believe anybody would come challenge me. It's been 3 years, quiet, no problem. But that's only if he has two Eidim, that will support the fact that he was there for 3 years. Now let's say we have one pair of Eidim for year one, another pair for year two, and another pair for year three. We sort of have to combine and use them all together. Amar Loi. So the question is like this: for his first year of occupation, he has two Eidim. For the second year, another two Eidim. For the third year, he has another pair of Eidim. Now, what is the halacha? Amar Loi, chazaka. We tally it up. He has 3 years. It's perfect chazaka. Amar Loi, he responded, Afani Amar Kain. I also agree with that. But Rabbi Kiva disagrees. He disagrees in this matter, because he used to say, it says davar, a full entity, a full unit, full episode. Davar v'lo chatzi davar. You can't have this, story split amongst different Eidim. Bottom line, apparently Rabbi Kiva is not going to work with our Mishnah, where we have two Eidim on the Gneva and another two Eidim for the Tvich and the Mechira. Amar Abai, I feel the time of Rabbi Kiva. You know what? In our case, in our situation, even Rabbi Kiva would agree that it works. It's totally different than the case of the Chazak. Miloi Moide Rabbi Kiva. Wouldn't Rabbi Kiva agree in the following case that it works, even though it requires joining together and combining two pairs of Eidim? Let's say B'shnayim Eimrim Kiddush. Two Eidim testify that Reuven was Mekadesh Rachel. End of story. They know no more. U'shnayim Eimrim Baal. Another two pair of Eidim come and say, look. Another pair of Eidim come and say, well, this woman and interacted physically as married with another man. Now they have no clue whether she's married or not. We're going to sort of put one and one together. We're going to say, well, we have the Edom that she got married, let's say on Chodesh Nisan, and we're going to now add the second story to it. We have the Edom that she was Mizana and Ir, and that gets her Misa. The Avagav, the Ede Bia, Tzrichel Ede Kedushin. So although the second pair of Edom will have to base their testimony, they have to come onto the first pair to indicate that to establish she was a married woman, which they wouldn't know on their own. So even though their sort of story is just a half story, from their perspective, is that Chatzi Davar? No. You know why? Given the Ede Kiddush, since the first pair of Edom that are merely coming to establish that she's a married woman, they don't really need to come onto the second pair in order to present their story and to establish her marriage. So they're sort of independent of the second pair. That's enough. Davar Karina Bey. So since the first pair have their own independence, although the second pair needs them, it doesn't matter. So Rashi says, because of that, even the Eidos of the Bia, the second episode, the second part, is Kayam. It stands. And we give her Misa. Here as well, when it comes to the Gneva and the Tvicha and the Mechira. Although the Edom that are coming to speak about this fellow shechting an animal, for all they know it's his animal. So they're not independent. They have to establish that it's a stolen animal based on the Eidos of the first pair. So they need them. But the first pair, do they need the second pair? No. The first pair that are coming to speak about the fact that he stole the animal, that's a standalone episode. They don't need the second pair to substantiate their story. So since there's a certain element of independence, where one pair doesn't need the other, even though the second pair needs the first, but the first, that's enough to separate them, to give them independent identity. Davar Karina Bey, we call it a davar, its own thing, its own episode, and it works. Interesting. So when it's sort of a one-way need, when they need me but I don't need them, so there's no issue of Chatzi Davar. So our Mishnah can work even according to Rabbi Kiva. And then first we'll explain how does this work. It's very simple. Once the Bezdin hears, once the Bezdin accepts that it was stolen, done deal. Okay, it's a stolen animal. We accept it as fact. So now when two Eidim come and speak about this fellow doing shchita on the animal, we understand he did shchita on a stolen animal. They don't need, the second pair doesn't necessarily need to now verify for us that it was stolen. They don't need that second. We already know that it's established as a fact. So it's not half a story, it's a full story. We know it was stolen animal, and they're coming to tell us that it was nishchat by this fellow. Just like in the case of the Eshes Ish. Once we've established through the first pair that she's an Eshes Ish, it's a done deal, it's a fact. Fait accompli. Now we have another episode, a separate episode that was nus. It's a totally separate thing. It's a full story, a full episode. Okay. So bottom line, we have the case of the chazaka, where over there we have a machlekes. Whether we can sort of combine this pair of Edom about the first year, this pair of Edom about the second year, with this pair of Edom about the third year. Chacham say no problem, just combine them. Because ultimately you're trying to reach the same goal. They're all trying to tell you about the chazaka. So although each pair is just telling you a third, it's okay, you can combine them, tally it up, and arrive at your 3-year chazaka. Rabbi Kiva disagrees. He says, what's the value of sitting in a field for 1 year? You don't see chazaka. The concept of chazaka is only generated when you have 3 years. So each pair of Edom is not really telling you anything. Davar v'lechatzi davar. So there we have the machlekes. But all agree, in the case of the Eshes Ish with the Znus, likewise in the Gneva with the Tvicha Mechira, there's no issue of Chatzi Davar. Asks the Gemara, Rabbanan hai davar v'lechatzi davar l'mutei mai. But what do Rabbanan do with the drasha of davar v'lechatzi davar? Meaning, is there any situation where the Rabbanan would agree to Rabbi Kiva that it's not acceptable because it's a half story? So the Gemara, yeah, I'll give you a case where actually, it's really just a partial episode. It's just a half story, in which case it has no value. Lemute, so we're going to be we're going to exclude and disqualify the following case, even according to Rabbanan. So when the Edom are coming to testify that the Isha is now a mature adult and fully responsible for her actions, they're testifying that about the presence of body here, which indicate maturity. So we have sort of a split story. Echad Omer, Echad Begabo. You have two Edom, but they're speaking about different things. Reuben is saying, well, I'm testifying about the presence of one hair. We need two pubic hair to indicate maturity, right? So he's testifying about the presence of one hair, Begabo, and the area in the back. Ve'echad Omer, and Shimon, the other aide, is saying, I'm also coming to establish maturity, but he's going to testify about the presence of a adult hair in a different area. There's one hair Bekresa in the front. So we're sort of trying to combine the two testimonies and get her to have an identity of adulthood. And we're trying to establish godless by combining the two testimonies. One hair from him, one hair from him. That's going too far. That's chatzi davar, because each aid is just testifying about one hair which has no value. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Forget about chatzi davar. You only have one aid per hair. That's way worse than all those cases mentioned earlier, where you have at least two Eidim per whatever you're saying, even a half a story, but at least you have two Eidim speaking about a half a story. Here it's just one Eid per half a hair, per hair. Not only is it a chatzi davar, because it's one hair at a time, which is half, what's required. It's half the Eidus, because it's only one Eid, half of the pair. So of course, it's not a non-starter, nothing to talk about. Ella, so it must be Lamuti. We're trying to exclude a case which is a bit better. You have two Eidim. Echad Begabo, testifying about the presence of a hair in the back. Echad Bekresa, two Eidim speaking about one hair in the front. So here you have two Eidim, but each pair is only speaking about half the story. One hair has no value. Hani Amri Ktani, Vahani Amri Ktani. So ultimately, this pair is just speaking that she's a ktana. Basically, one hair doesn't establish adulthood, and likewise the other pair of Eidim are doing the same. So you can't be mitzaref them. You can't combine them. As opposed to the chazaka, Rashi points this out. As opposed to the chazaka, two Eidim are speaking about 1 year of chazaka, another pair about the second year. So ultimately, each pair is aiming for the same point. Look, he was sitting in the field, he was in possession, he was making chazaka. Maybe 1 year is not enough time, but it's the same masa chazaka. 1 year or 3 years, it's the same possession. So we have to sort of combine a year from here, add it to the year from the other fellow. So this way we get 3 years. But each pair is still speaking about chazaka as opposed to one hair. One hair is nothing. A cotton could have a hair. Okay, so bottom line is just summarize it clearly. So we have sort of 3 different types of cases of chatzi davar. In one example, all agree it's worthless in the case of the hair. In one case, all agree it's okay in the case of the ish with the baal or the gneva with the tvicha mechira. And we have sort of that middle case of the chazaka. According to Chachamim, it's okay. According to Rekiva, it's called chatzi davar. Ganav v'machar b'Shabbos v'chu. Person steals and sells on Shabbos. There's no chiv misa, therefore he's liable to dalad v'hei. Asks the Gemara, v'atanya pata, but in the Brisa, it says that he's pater for selling on Shabbos. Apparently there was a malach involved. Amar Rabbi Bar Kamma. Yeah, that's speaking where there was a malach involved in the actual sale. Ketanya he the pater, that Brisa, which exempts him, is speaking bo'emer loy, where the customer of this animal tells the ganav, let's make a deal. I have a grove of fig trees, pick off some figs today on Shabbos for payment, in lieu of payment for this animal. Okay, akoitz l'cha te'ena m'teinasi. Pick a fig off my fig tree. V'tikne lignevusich. That's payment for the gneva. So by picking the fig, it's triggering the kinyan, in which case the customer is now acquiring the animal. So the mechira was triggered by a malacha, right? Because as the ganav is picking the fig, he's getting paid, and that affects the transfer of ownership on the animal. So in this case, and in this case only, is the actual sale, the actual masa mechira associated with chilul Shabbos, which generates chiyav misa, which exempts him from payment. Amri, so the question was like this: V'chiven d'chitava l'kaman bedina. Why is this considered, halachic, payment for this animal? Suppose the fellow picks those figs on Shabbos, okay, and the owner runs out yelling at him, "What are you picking my figs? Return those figs." Let's say it was not in a sale, context. Okay, just stranger comes and picks off figs. Well, you can't obligate the fig picker to repay his figs, the mechayiv b'nafshihu, because by picking those figs, he did a malacha, he's chayiv misa, and as we explained many times, when there's chayiv misa, we say kimleb derabim, he's granted the more severe punishment, which is misa. There's no chayiv mishpat liability, no payment liabilities. Mechayiv b'nafshihu. So ha-mechira, namilav mechirahi. So since there's no financial liability for picking figs on Shabbos, this cannot be used as payment. He's not chayiv anything to me. So he hasn't really gotten anything from, he doesn't owe me anything. So there's no payment here. He didn't get anything from me. So it cannot be used as payment, and ultimately it's not a sale. There was no transaction that took place here. Right? The point is, if I pay you, I can go back and retrieve that money. I can claim that money back if this, transaction falls apart, right? You took my money. So that which I gave you is considered payment. In as much as I can get it back from you, that means you took something from me. So that can be applied as payment. But if it's something that I can never retrieve from you, so I haven't really given you anything in terms of, chayshim mishpat context, I have no claim on that. So how can I decide to apply it as payment? I haven't really given you anything. Elam Rav Papa says, Rav Papa, you're right. This wouldn't work. Rather, how do we have mechira on Shabbos, which is chayiv misa, where the customer tells the ganav zroik nei vusich the chatzer, throw the animal into my chatzer, right? Throw it through the air, and that's how I'm going to be kind of the gneva. And he's standing in the street, throwing it into a private property, which is a malach, a haitzah, transferring from one domain to the other. So we have a mas, a mechira, a sale, a transaction happening together with a malacha. Says the Gemara, hold it. When was the malacha of haitzah? When did that take place? Kiman Rabbi Kiva. It must be like Rabbi Kiva. The Amar Kluta, when something was sort of caught mid-air, once it enters the airspace of the Rishus HaYachad Kimishun Chadami, we treat it as though it landed. It arrived. In which case, when he threw an animal from the street and it entered the airspace of the Chatzir, the private, property here, so the Malach of Eitzah was committed. I should say Achnasa, because it went from the street into the Rishus HaYachad. And just like we consider it private property, airspace considered private property beneath it regarding Shabbos, also regarded like private property regarding acquisitions. The customer is now kaina. It's like sitting in his hand. Because since it's slated for landing, which consider as though it landed, it relates to the ground below, both regarding Shabbos and regarding the Kinyan. So both things happen simultaneously, at the same time, which explains the halacha, why he's potter from mechira in this case, because it came with a malacha. However, the Ikar Rabbanan, but according to the Rabbanan who disagree with this idea of air capture, kiva the matil chatzar beis kanin and kana. Regarding Kinyan, airspace is enough. So as soon as it gets to the airspace of his chatzar, the fellow is kaina. He acquires it. But it's not yet a malacha, it's not a completed malacha until it lands. When in Shabbos, there's no chiv adim matilar until it gets down to the ground. So it's not happening at the same time. So why is he potter for the mechira on Shabbos? There's no malacha associated with the kinyan of mechira at this point. Well, but we're speaking like what he said, like technically knebusech acha tenuach, when the customer clearly stipulates, I don't want to be kind until it lands. So the moment that it lands, A, he's kind, and B, there was a malacha of Shabbos. Rava Amar, let's go back to the original suggestion, where the fellow was picking figs as per his payment. The question on that was, well, if he's not liable to repay those, he's not responsible to repay those figs because it involved a malacha on Shabbos. So why consider it payment? He didn't really get anything. Let's go back to that pshat. The reason why it's considered payment is based on the following svara. Esnan amra Torah v'afilu ba'al imay. So the esnan, gift given to the immoral woman on account of interacting with her, that's called an esnan, and it's disqualified to be brought as a korban. And even if one interacts with his mother, which is an erva, and he gave her something for an esnan, it's considered possible for a korban, despite the fact that she has no claim on him, because this association generates chiv misa. And we explained many times when there's chiv misa, there's no chiv mami. Suppose theoretically she would come and claim the item that he promised her in din. Would she get it? No. Mi amrina leikum havla esnan. Would we order him to pay the esnan? Of course not, because when there's chiv misa, there's no chiv mami. Still, we say if he gave her to her, it becomes pasul. So even though he's not obligated to give her, even though in halachas of choshen mishpat there's no liability, there's no chiyuv, ella, but still avagav dechik tava lebedina loyamina le zilhav. That's sort of a repetition. So despite the fact that if she would come and claim it, we wouldn't order him to give it. Kivan dechiyav lahavi esnan. But ultimately, if he decides to give it to her, it's called an esnan. Fact is, it was given as a gift for this purpose. Hachanami here as well, when it comes to accepting these figs on Shabbos as payment for the animal. Even though, in terms of hard numbers, suppose the fellow would have picked the figs on Shabbos. You can't reclaim them, as we explained, because he's chayav misa. Nevertheless, even though there's no choshen mishpat element, afil hachi still, kiven the kamakni lebahachi, since the guy have decided, I'm giving you the animal in exchange for these figs, havi mechira. It is considered an act of mechira, and is chayav dalad v'hei. And the only reason why he's potter on dalad v'hei is because it was associated with a malacha on Shabbos. And there's a halacha of kimel v'drab minei, which means he gets the most severe punishment, which exempts him from financial liabilities. Okay, let's recap today's DAF. We spoke about a harsha, power of attorney, when we write it, when we don't. We spoke about the halacha of al pishnayim edim yakum davar, a case where it applies to the kuliyam, a case where all agree it's okay, and the case of the machlekes. We have ganav v'machaber Shabbos versus chayev. Although the Brisa says potter, we have two ways to explain why it would be potter, both involving the mechira, which is linked to a malach on Shabbos, in which case is a ptur of mami. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.